Good, y'all. Gervonta Tank Davis has said on Twitter that he 100% plans to retire from the sport of boxing after his fight with Jake Paul next month in November. But I'm going to explain to you guys why this is very unlikely, right? Now, Gervonta Davis is reportedly getting paid $40 to $50 million for this Jake Paul fight, similar to how much he got paid when he fought Ryan Garcia. And listen, as far as money, as far as financially, he is able to retire from the sport of boxing after this Jake Paul fight. And he probably wouldn't have to come back unless he just got reckless and just fucked off his money. But when you look at the state of the PBC, right, because Gervonta Tank Davis is signed to the PBC, he's Al Haymon, he's one of Al Haymon's guys, right? Think about this, right? Besides Canelo Alvarez, Gervonta Tank Davis is probably looked at as the second face of boxing, right? Obviously, if we're talking about numbers, you know, you would have to say Jake Paul. I know Jake Paul is not looked at as a serious boxer, but when you look at the attention and the views and the revenue that Jake Paul brings into the sport of boxing, whether you like him or not, he is one of the faces of boxing. But if we're talking about real boxers, right? If we're talking about boxers that have been boxing since they was kids, Gervonta Tank Davis is recognized as the second face of boxing behind Canelo Alvarez. Now, when you look at the state of PBC, right? PBC had a deal with Fox. They lost that deal. They had a deal with Showtime. They lost that deal. They currently have a deal with Amazon. We're hearing rumors that after this year, they could report they might possibly lose their deal with Amazon. The PBC is not bringing eyes and pay-per-view numbers to the sport that it did back in the day, right? And it has a lot to do with people fire sticking, people not actually paying for the fights. And let's be honest, boxing is not one of the most popular sports in the world like it used to be. I think it's like number 12 right now. Shout out to Turkey Al-Sheikh. He's helping boxing slowly move up the ranks to become one of the most popular sports in the world again. Shout out to Turkey Al-Sheikh. I love everything that him and Ryder Season is doing for the sport of boxing. They're actually making the fights happen that we really want to see. Not that Jake Paul shit. I'm talking about, you know, the fights that we got with Bivol and Better Beef. We got Terrence Buck Crawford versus Canelo. You know, he's making really good fights happen for the sport of boxing, right? We're supposedly getting Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson at the beginning of the year. You know what I'm saying? But guys, think about this, right? If Gervonta Tank Davis at age 30, if he actually does retire from boxing, the PBC is done. Like, if we're being honest, Al Haymon and the PBC, they're done. They're going to lose the deal with Amazon. And what other network is gonna, what other network of business is gonna take on PBC if they don't have Gervonta Tank Davis? What leverage will they